Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to some more Face It League action. I don't know why I said Face It League action. I am so out of sorts today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be a little more precise. We are here with a World Cup show match. We've had a couple of these already, and today we're looking at Nicaragua and Panama in decks. Because of my poor planning, we're going to be getting into this thing pretty much immediately, and we'll talk about the rosters after our first map.
Yeah, we do know this. First map, same as last night, going to be Lijiang Tower, Zarya, and Symmetra are the bands here. So I think two of the bands going into this first map. I will say this Nicaraguan squad, we'll talk about a little bit more down the line here, maybe after this map. We have seen the majority of the players for this team. Panama, a lot of players brand new to us here, but it doesn't necessarily mean a lot. It's going to be really fun to learn a lot about these players here throughout the night here, out the gate, with Zarya being banned out. You've seen the team already kind of go something a little bit different. Hazard actually come out here from Nicaragua, which is a little surprising to me, since I feel like we don't see Hazard that often anymore. But again, always that good divide between, hey, you want to play dive, you want to play brawl. Hazard's there. On the other side for Team Panama, you have Jazzer coming out on the Orisa, and honestly, a pretty standard line here from Panama. Nicaragua, on the other hand, it's standard a little bit, but double speed, Destiny on this venture, I feel like it's going to be a big key to a lot of these fights here for this Nicaragua squad, especially when we burrow in. Really help out here. GM trying to face Jazzer head-to-head.
100%. We'll see what will come to form here momentarily, as already we have some action. Destiny gets put the pick right out the gate. You see the survival there from GM, was able to get through, but Destiny's already taken care of too, and Jazzer unfortunately kind of caught out. You should see the first point eventually taken care of, and with that little bit of aggression, Plata almost goes off the edge, but doesn't stay alive.
And again, like I said, a lot of these fights for Team Nicaragua are getting down to how well Destiny's playing. Destiny kind of out of this fight pretty early on. Q-Master in not necessarily the best spot, but going to be able to get themselves out of dodge it or fall back with their team. Jazzer, though, going to be able to find Flata, so one big burst of speed is gone, and a good source of healing gone as well. But Destiny back to the fray, trying to at least get rid of one.
After trying their darndest too, Destiny already been really hot right out the gate here. Already has another as well, and with that, should be able to get a point flip here momentarily. You still see a little bit more onto the cart, but hey, Destiny is already taken out. We're already at a pretty good percentile already, and Tiger going to help the finish on Geom with 34% on the board. That's the limit for now.
Yeah, right now you're seeing the rest of Nicaragua back up here. We're losing Navidity right there, and that's not necessarily who you want to lose, but you're okay with just having a fallback. Granted, this does stall you out a little bit, but coming this next fight here, Panama and Nicaragua are going to have a lot of ultimates coming up here. You will have the Terror Surge and the Consumers pretty early here now for Panama coming out here, and I think that's going to be really good for them here, especially as they already use it. They want to play aggressively. They want to try to force Nicaragua back here very, very quickly.
Yeah, 100%, and now you've got some still decent tools going for this. Both sides are trying to get their ultimates on time, but everyone's kind of incredibly close right now. And you think you can see a really aggressive, yeah, Terror Surge right here is going to pull everybody in to almost support ultimates to be able to hang on. It looks like that's going to be enough to get through this. You might get a little bit more stall right here, maybe another touch, but Chaser is going to be in, honestly, a really awkward spot.
A really awkward spot. Trying to just get out, but it's going to be Destiny with the help from basically everyone there for Nicaragua. It's going to be able to clean them out here. And I mean, this is going to be really interesting to watch throughout the night here, just how these two teams play. But I like the dual support ult use there from Nicaragua. It was able to really open the door, especially as Jazzer used their Terror Surge there. It allowed them basically to really negate that. The beat was used, and essentially that just allowed the team to kind of just say, okay, hey, yeah, you're Terror Surging here, but it doesn't necessarily matter. However, now you look at Panama, they have a beat, they have Blade, they have Overclock. They're in a really good spot here, Hunter.
100% they are. Destiny thinks this fight can be taken away. Not going to really find a whole lot, but the team is there to clean things up a little bit. But unfortunately, the one pick out of Tiger just is not going to be enough. And now they're going to push max 75%. Still on the board. A nice little bit of stall coming through, but eventually Flip will come through at about 82, maybe 81. And to be fair, with ults mainly off the table, it's going to come down to Tiger here.
Yeah, it's going to come down to Tiger a lot here, but again, we've seen what Sojourn have been able to do in the past, especially in Face League, especially last night. 1 or 2 kills with an Overclock basically ends a fight right there, and these two teams already smart, it seems, knowing when to back out of fights here. We've seen a lot from Nicaragua, and that's the team that's really going to have to worry about here. Navy now getting off the cast, going over to a Soj of their own, wants to play a little bit more aggressive with the team. As you already see Destiny trying to get rid of one with some help there from Geom, but not going to be able to put anything to get out of jail for free there with the burrow.
Yeah, Tiger's trying to find some kind of shot. He's found a couple of bodies so far, but eventually Plata hit with the direct. Takada able to finish them off. And now Q-Master, Shinmi Low can't really peek to give all these heals, so everyone just has to kind of get out of dodge here and try to set up for one more fight.
one more fight, and again, you have no ultimates right now for Nicaragua, especially after starting off really well. They've kind of fallen off here, and yeah, you could talk about the dual support ult uses there. I thought it was still a good play, but now they have nothing coming in this one as Antnox already using their consumer rush here. Again, they want to play aggressively here, forcing Nicaragua to play on their toes here.
Yeah, Antnox is in such a rough situation. We should be able to at least get the overtime touch coming through right now, but now Terror Surge ready for Jezzer is just going to double down to get rid of Flata, and that should see the start coming towards its natural end. First map, going to see a little bit more stalling out, but Destiny last person to touch, and at the end of the day, very back and forth as it was, Panama takes the first one.
And hey, a really good showing here for Panama. Like I said, coming into this, me and you have not necessarily seen a lot of these players. So really, really good showing, especially as we've seen a lot of the Nicaraguan players. We know what to expect from them. They came out of the gate strong. Panama's able to respond very quickly there. And I mean, hey, you were playing two different compositions right there. I thought Destiny on that venture still did a good enough job. Most elims on that team with 8. Everyone else kind of struggled there. Navy was the next highest with 4. I mean, you're really looking for your tank to be able to find some value there, and that was one thing that, you know, with the hazard I kind of talked about. Interesting to see, especially on a map like that's so brawl heavy. It could work, but it really struggled to, and you really started to see it there. Now it swaps coming out here as we head over to guard, and Geom going over to the Malga here, which is going to be very, very interesting up against still everything on the other side, which, I mean, I still think it's going to be a little bit of a rough patch here for them, as you're already seeing Flata try to find the boop, but they've hit it on Takeda, who can double jump.
Yeah, it helps out quite a little bit, but either way, with this Malga, you have to play a little more carefully, and especially if you're a Jazzer, you have to be able to hold on to these cooldowns very importantly, because if you lose them, you can be burnt down with a lot of these right here. Jim, though, he's taking a lot of heat right now, is lucky to kind of still be standing, and eventually Tiger going to help take them down. First point should be taken care of here momentarily. You do lose out on a couple during the process, though, so it's not too bad at the end of the day, but still, first cap is there.
Yeah, and the thing here, though, for Nicaragua coming back into this fight, they should play a little bit quickly, because you already see Speed was going back there to try to taxi Jayzer back here very, very quickly, but Nicaragua played slow. You gotta allow Jayzer to get into this fight here. So this is really only helping out Panama just get set back up here on point. We saw teams struggle in this map yesterday to take the point back, and Geom almost gets speared off the map right there, able to just barely stay on. Now they're going after that backline, but they need some help from their DPS line here now.
Yep, Smart used to get the shield out here. It's going to be able to give a lot of coverage, but here we go with that deep dive. Crushes too, and one's going to go off the side. Tiger cannot make it back up right now, but Takeda still thinks they can pull this one back. We're back in the 4v4. The stomp going to get negated, and with a little bit of help from that cleanse. Geom needs to be able to pull this corner fully. Needs to get a little bit of care.
Q-Master on this Ana, I didn't necessarily talk about a very interesting pick coming out here, especially with Geom on this Malga. It's gonna be the hero that, or it's gonna be the player that they're gonna be focusing on the most here, just with so much healing. It's gonna have to go straight into them. Flaw's gonna be basically here for everyone else, but right now you look at the other side, Panama coming up to 3 big, maybe even 4 big ultimates here, and we've seen them in the last point. They like to use them very aggressively here, as especially Tiger gets rid of nade early on here. Expect at least 1. There's 2 actually coming out from them.
Yeah, Takeda's gonna be able to come in with that one. I mean, Geom, between a rock and a hard place, nothing you can really do there between the Blade and the Terror Surge. You see a little bit more stalling out here from Destiny, but Q-Master gonna get booped for their troubles. As, you know, bright side for you in the situation, both Sportsmans for Q-Master and for Flata are online.
Yeah, and you got 3 ultimates out from the other side there, especially with losing Geom so early in that fight. I think Nicaragua did the right thing of just saying, hey, we're just going to stall out as long as we possibly can. They did just that. They let the other side use ultimates. Now they're rotating into their own ultimates here, but they have to be very smart with their uses here. You talked about last map. Dual support ultimates came out at the same time right there for Nicaragua. While it helped them win that fight, it kind of hindered them in the long run. They need to be a little bit smarter with it this time, especially with a cage fight coming up here from Geom. They're trying to look to maybe capture 1 or 2 key targets out here pretty early on with that.
Yeah, Beat is going to be used in that situation, and boom, comes through! Geom is literally hanging on the edge. Oh no, you hate to see it right there. When now 70% on the board, shouldn't get much more than this situation, and that is, I mean, that's just a rough way to lose that fight.
That's a really rough way to lose that fight there. You always have to be mindful of the edge, and Geom looking for those opportunities. I mean, Jayzer looking for those opportunities to boot people off. And Geom, I mean, almost got speared off the map earlier this round, so they had to know they were looking for it there. The cage hanging them up, just kind of pouring salt on the wound right there. But now you look at the other side here. You have a Tectonic Shock ready to go right now for Nicaragua, but Tiger has Overclock ready to go. That could be very key here, as they like playing these off angles.
Yeah, but out the gate, Antox has gone down, and now Destiny wants to try to keep this one in their favor right now, forcing Speed Boost into a rough situation as Tiger comes and says a little friendly hello, hi, but as a matter of fact, managed to finish them off, but eventually Gion is going to get the better of this 1v1 battle, and while it's going back and forth, it's looking like Gion and Squad are going to be able to pull this back for the time being as, yeah, Takeda not going to be able to get out of here, and now 99% on the board, and you are hoping and praying you get this nano out on time.
Yeah, you're just hoping that you're going to have a good team fight here. You should be able to build to this nano very quickly if you're Q-Master, but Q-Master kind of playing off on their own here. That's normally what you see from Anas here a lot. Flata, though, is a more interesting one considering they're on the other side of the map and about halfway up the tower at the moment. They're looking for that boop kill. Flata's been very aggressive with their playstyle so far, and I think it's helped and hurt Nicaragua here early on, especially when we're seeing Panama come right back in with how they started this first fight here. Split with Tiger on the off angle, but Destiny finds Takeda out here early on.
Yeah, and you see that now throwing aggressively, and you're going to see the Terror Surge used. Maybe ends up being taken out early, and now, but the Jacer's unfortunately like completely separated, so now 88+ percentile, you need to get your supports out of here. Speed Boost goes down late though, and that spawn, in all fairness, is going to be pretty fast.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fast, and honestly, I think that kind of helps out Panama here, really. They're going to be able to come back in fast. They're going to have 2 ultimates ready to go, and then 2 ultimates following that for Nicaragua. You're going to have 2 ultimates as well, but you're almost going to need to use them immediately here. Jumbo going to find the poop off the map right there, trying to find something with their Terror Surge. Going to be able to find 2!
Yeah, and you saw Takeda who tried going in the back, get something with the blade, managed to get rid of Q-Master, but that is not going to be enough at the end of the day. Great play to take some aggression. It'll take us over to Night Market to decide our first map.
Nicaragua actually coming alive there. I mean, you could really talk about how they really struggled throughout the majority of that point right there. Panama seemed like they had every kind of answer for them. Eventually, though, GM goes over to this Orisa, mirrors what we're seeing from the other side there for Jazer, and really is able to find a big difference there. I also just think you started to get good play from that support line. I think Q-Master on that Ana really started to find the value you were truly looking for it to find. Flata, again, I talked about maybe playing a little bit over-aggressive on the Lucio, and we and you have definitely seen some very aggressive Lucios in these past couple days. It's both beneficial and a hindrance. It just depends on how they're doing, and right there towards the end of that map, it was definitely a beneficial play there for Nicaragua. But Panama, I've been very impressed with how they're playing so far. Takeda and Tiger, that DPS lane, they've been able to seem like they're doing whatever they want at most times. Tiger's really taking these off angles very well, and Panama's playing these split plays very, very well, where Tiger's normally paired up with Speed Boost to kind of just give them that speed there to be able to play these off angles and give them the space and time that they desperately need on that Sojourn.
And they do desperately need it in that situation. To be able to take that off angle, it is extremely important. It's important for Takeda as well. Unfortunately, Flata said none of that here today. It's a very rough map and a very easy map to be booped off of. And hey, that's going to pretty much seal that fight right there. Because without Takeda, I don't think there's enough confidence to take that 4v5.
Yeah, probably not. Really not. That Genji is very important. It's your flex DPS here, and that's normally that same role that Destiny's playing. You want them there to be able to build some space, maybe take some attention away. As you're already seeing the spear spin coming out there from GM pretty early on, as that gets rid of a key tool from them. Look, GM has to kind of just play behind the corner here, giving up a lot of value space here now to Panama as they try to make their way back in.
Yeah, and he's got the spin to be able to get out of here alive, but still, full shot from Tiger. Eventually, Destiny's going to trade back out, so you might have the tank with you, but this battle is not quite over yet, especially you still have your DPS in this fight. Endox eventually goes down. Speed was hit with the anti, but it's going to be Jacer at the end of the day, bringing this fight back around. Only 35%, pretty good, all things considered, as Q-Master goes for a little dive.
Yeah, gonna get taken out there just very late there. I think Speed Boost would have loved the environmental kill, but gotta take it away from them there. Ultimates, though, coming online here very quickly. Q-Master gonna have their Nano, one of the fastest ones built there for the side of Nicaragua. Other side, though, you look at Speed Boost, gonna have beat Tiger, Jazer, not that far away from their own ultimates here. Surprisingly, this is the first map where we're really seeing Anox struggle to build up their Kitsune Rush here. They normally have that ready to go pretty early on in these fights here, Hunter, but Takeda finds Flata out early. That aggressive play style, looking for those environmental kills, comes back to bite them big time.
Yeah, and speaking of aggression, they're going to go in on this one. Takeda, unfortunately, loses a little bit of their counterpart with Speed Boost, who was in pretty deep with them. So now, if you can get Flata back in this fight without losing anybody, you should be able to just go all out with this aggression. And already, they kind of are, especially as Destiny's going to get hit with this Nano. And unfortunately, I mean, Jazer just doesn't have enough health to go through that Nano boost adventure, who is going to try to run through body after body. But as you see, they're doing a good job trying to stagger one person at a time, eventually give it up 54%, and this next fight is going to be very ult-heavy.
Again, I've been very impressed with these teams and their decisiveness to back out of fights when they know it's lost. I love what we saw there from Panama. They just backed out once they lost one. Yeah, you had one person stick around, but look what Panama has here. All 5 ultimates coming up here. Granted, same thing could almost be said here for Nicaragua as well, as they only use the nano, but right now, somebody needs to keep Geo alive.
Yep, Pete's gonna come out already so much activated. A whole, I think 5 ults are ready to come out, make it 6. They are giving everything to win this fight, and Takeda is gonna be the one to be able to make this happen. And yeah, eventually you'll see that come through as Geom, last one to fall, as all we have to do is get that flip.
7 ultimates. 7 ultimates were used in that fight there, Hunter. I mean, it was a pretty chaotic fight. We knew that was going to probably be the case right there, but Anox and Tiger holding on to their ultimates here, especially as they now have control of the point. They were going right back to control center again, a choke point they can really dominate, and it allows Anox to really use this Kitsune Rush very, very aggressively, especially knowing that there's nothing on the other side. They immediately use it now, and look what Nicaragua does here. They're just going to kind of let this go, give up a lot of time, give up a lot of precious percentage. They're really putting this into one-fight territory right now.
And to be fair, maybe it's the better in this situation, you know, if you are Nicaragua, that you're able to take this fight a little bit later, because it still would have been one-fight territory for them, but the problem is they still don't have any ultimates to work with. Q-Master is currently lucky to still be standing after multiple hits, and eventually, Tiger taken down. Destiny has been so clutch in these 1v1s. Unfortunately for Q-Master, they are fully separated from the rest of their team, and people are kind of just running to the point, one after another. They're at least going to, I think, realistically have a chance of getting this flip, but here comes that all-out aggression. Geom, without much health left sitting by, this looks like it's going to be an inevitability as cleaning up one after another. You're going to be able to see Panama closing this one out here. Destiny and Plata back in time, but it won't mean a thing as Takeda clears things out. Panama is going to take Lijiang Tower to get us started.
And a really good start here for Team Panama. Like I said, coming into the night, we didn't necessarily know a lot about the players on this team, but man, are they impressing us so far. And hey, there was a good back and forth map. That's what we're really hoping to see throughout the night here tonight. But let's also just have one quick moment here. I know last night's series, it was a best of 5. Well, tonight it's a little bit different. It's a best of 7, so we're at least going to get 4 maps. And I think both me and you, Hunter, that was maybe one thing that we would have loved to see yesterday, a little bit of a longer time for these two teams, especially in this Overwatch World Cup friendly match here, to have more time to have really, really good practice. And that's exactly what the teams are going to get here tonight, as again, best of 7. So we're at least going to get 4 maps here tonight in our friendly here. But hey, a really good performance there, I think, for both teams. Nicaragua, I think they really struggled at times to get going. Panama really liked to play that aggressive playstyle there with that Orisa. You saw the Zarya be banned out there map 1, probably for that reason. Same thing with the Sim also being banned out. That allowed that Orisa to really find a lot of value as well. And Nicaragua eventually went over 2, and I thought GM did a really good job on it, but they struggled with it. I talked about the support lines there for Nicaragua. They were doing a little bit different than Panama, and you really saw the difference there. It really seemed like the Kiriko for Team Panama allowed Jazer to maybe play a little bit more aggressively with that Orisa. Poke around angles, because a lot of times you would be seeing Geom hovering around half health once the fight got started, and then normally be the first or second one taken out there for Nicaragua. So especially heading into our second map of the night, Dorado, it's going to be really interesting to see that, but it looks like Nicaragua does not want to see the Kiriko this map, so we might still be seeing the same kind of support lines coming out from them this time around.
Yeah, we just might. And hey, we're talking real quick about that amazing squad that, to be fair, they make that a very close first map as well. We'll take a very quick look at them with the time we have, and then hopefully next map we'll be able to get a little more intricate when it comes to their opponents, Team Panama. But we've already seen them, how they can play Geom, Navy, Esponias, Yaflata, and Cube Master. And again, like you said, we got to see a majority of this core quite a little while back. If you look back at the Copa Americana, where they played up against a couple of really rough teams, but they went into there. And to be fair, despite being double out, I think they performed pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. They went against a couple tough opponents, and I think it was really a thing to, we didn't know at the time if there was going to be an Overwatch World Cup just yet. I believe that was the case. But it was good practice for them, especially just getting back out there with it. Now that there's Overwatch World Cup back, you can definitely see the team has that chemistry there. It's going to be really fun to see how they improve up until we get official stuff coming out from them. Because again, a lot of the stuff can change. We have to stress that enough. Committees for teams, for these country teams, have not yet been selected. Rosters might change as well. But right now, just looking at these two rosters here, these two really good rosters, in my opinion, honestly. But Heading into our second map, Kiriko and Sigma going to be the band coming out there from Team Panama. So again, I think these are two really good bands here. Again, Nicaragua banning out the Kiriko because I think it really allowed Jazer to play very, very aggressively. It looks like we're going to be having a sub come in here for the player I just talked about with Jazer, as Dake comes in here for them now on that tank role. So it's going to be really fun to see that. On the other side, doesn't look like any subs coming in for Team Nicaragua here. So they're going to be sticking with that same 5 and Hunter. I don't necessarily hate that move. Again, you want to try to get a lot of chemistry built up between these players. And same thing, though, for Panama. You're bringing in sub here. You're trying to get the chemistry built up. You're trying to get good experience, especially in these friendlies matches. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. And we didn't talk too much about Destiny in that graphic, but Destiny is used to playing with this core as well. You look at some previous tournaments, look back at things like Andromeda, other group send you tournaments in the past. These players have been together for quite some time, and that's the thing that we don't really recognize initially with Nicaragua that we saw quite earlier last year was this core has a lot of experience together, and that's not always the case with some of these other teams. Even we look at teams like Costa Rica and Chile the other night, they're familiar with each other. The opponents will play with each other, but as actual units within their country, don't have as much experience as perhaps a core like this does here for Nicaragua.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, let's focus in on our second map of the night here. Dake coming out here with us already. Remember, banned out map 1. Seeing it here now. Geom going over to the Winston, who I think we've really seen them play on in the past. Cube Master, though, sticking with the Juno. And I thought the Juno worked very well for them last map, but maybe struggled at times. Flotto, though, no more Lucio for them. Going over to the Brig instead. Still allows them to play aggressive, but does kind of force them to slow it down a little bit. I think will help them out here a little bit more. Navy on this Freya. Gonna have to be someone that lands these shots here, especially when you have such a high ground presence on the defensive side here for Panama very early on.
Yeah, 100%. But you're already getting a lot of really good progress in the first 30 seconds. Getting through this first part can be tough for some teams, but it's especially great when you go in here, you get rid of Antox really early, and now you're forcing Takada into a rough situation. This is about as good of a start as you could hope for in that first fight for Nicaragua.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially after the struggles you had in the last map, you're really starting to get it going here early on. That's what you really need to do here for Nicaragua after a map where it was back and forth, but you started to kind of get it was starting to get a little bit more one side there towards the end of that first map here. I do like Geom on this Winston. I think it gives them a little bit more flexibility here, especially wanting to play dive on this map.
Yeah, now you're building up to all this charge on Zarya, and just you're able to start pulling everybody back one at a time in very quick succession. And that's all it takes in some of these fights, is getting all of that charge and just bulldozing through, which is easy when you have something like a Brig and a Genji.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about Dake getting up there very quickly with that charge, especially when you're playing with a Vendetta. We talked about this in the past when Vendetta first came out. She seemed like she was going to be someone that paired with Zarya very well, because the entire playstyle of Vendetta is to be up and in your face. Well, bubbles are going to be your best friend right now if you are Takeda here. Again, high ground a break trying to come here from Nicaragua. I would almost like to see him just kind of rotate straight to point and try to force a fight there instead.
Yeah, definitely would like to. Jim, though, unfortunately sucked out and just is going to be destroyed from there. It's an unfortunate situation, but they're going to try to look for a little bit more of that cleanup. Tiger and Speed Boost doing what they can. Speed Boost getting rid of 2, though, in that fight, and now you build up to all these ultimates, and no matter what you don't have an actual solution for this grab that's about to be online.
No, you don't, especially with Flotto not playing the Lucio that we saw him play the majority of last map. Yeah, you could have Rally, but that's something that can almost get kind of shredded away by a grab here pretty early on. Just like Tiger getting shredded away right there by that railgun shot.
Yeah, and you're going to see the abandonment of the high ground there momentarily, but to be fair, they have the charge, they have the ult, and the confidence to stay in this position, and now you see them, the way that this card has rolled back, we're back into 2-fight territory again.
2-fight territory, but you look at that time bank right now, Hunter. It's no longer on the side of Nicaragua after a really strong start. It's all started to fall apart for them here. Ultimate's so gonna definitely come out this fight. We've seen a lot be used in the past. There's the grab. The bubble actually kind of saved them for a brief moment.
Yeah, but Tiger gets rid of 2 during that process, and Geom goes ahead and goes in with the Primal Rage. Unfortunately, it doesn't get anything. It gets them out alive, but that is the silver lining.
A 2-for-2 ult trade right there. If you're Nicaragua, you lost that fight pretty handily. Granted, you're going to have 3 ultimates ready at some point. Panama, though, they already have those 3 ultimates ready to go. This is a team we saw last map like to play aggressively. However, I think on this map, they're going to really wait for an engagement from Nicaragua here before they use any of those ultimates. That Sundering Blade, Hunter, I'm really looking at here from Takeda. I know in a lot of our Faces series, we look at that as like, if it finds one, it's finding all the value. But this is a competition here for Nicaragua that this could absolutely destroy.
100%, and now you see them transition over through, and now they're going to double down here, but the nano's being used for Tiger. This could be very deadly very quickly, but it's going to be stunned out, pushed away. 30 health eventually will go down. It's everything they had in the kitchen sink, but Destiny managed to get a couple at the end right there, and they're going to be able to push this thing in. It was a very pretty start, not a very good middle, but what's important is how you finish, and they will go to the second point.
They'll get that second point again. Sometimes investing all your ultimates does work. It's worked for now Nicaragua a couple times here tonight, and Nade finding Takeda out is a huge kind of pick here early on. Gets a good stall here, allows him to get the cart rolling here and get that high ground presence that you were really looking to get here always on this second point push. Yeah, you do see Panama already getting on the high ground as well, and that Zarya will be able to actually give a little bit more space than the Winston does here, but you just want to get established up there, and so far that's exactly what Nicaragua is doing. 2 members on the cart right now for a brief moment. I did like that from them, just to at least try to push up here a little bit. Takeda, though, already you see them going in with that bubble. Allows them basically just to get a couple swings in for free.
Yeah, and this Sundering Blade is going to be really interesting because it's going to be relatively easy to split this squad up, especially if Two Master is down this early. I think you could take a certain level of aggression right now. Takeda, unfortunately, doesn't get to the high ground with that first jump. But what I love most of all is that Antox and Speedboost, we haven't really said their name throughout this map so far. It's because they've been so far back. They've been playing so safe to where they haven't really even been touched so far.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it all the times when it comes to support lines. If we're not talking about them, it normally means they're doing their job, and they're doing it really, really well. This support line for Panama has been really, really good, and you're kind of starting to see the main difference here between these 2 support lines. You see Flata, who we've talked about a lot because they like to play aggressive. Q-Master as well, playing this Juno, normally a hero, normally a support that you really perceive to be one of those aggressive supports as well, but already the Sundering Blade coming out here from Takeda.
Woo! Gets rid of 2. And again, you're just back in the same situation for Nicaragua, and no one is going to get out of here alive. 50 seconds on the board here. You've got the bolo, and you're close to a Primal Rage, but speaking of close, look at those ultimates for Panama.
Yeah, it's not going to be Nicaragua investing 3 ultimates this time to get the point, because 1, they're further away, and 2, they don't really have the ultimates to invest here, especially when you talk about Panama having ultimates that they're about to have ample investment in. You would be betting your entire house on those investments.
Yeah, and this is getting a little rough. Tigers already found 2 to finish off. Flata separated there. Now with 15 seconds, now you're actually a bit worried about a touch. It's close, but they are going to fall back and kind of surrender the initial touch, it looks like.
They're going to surrender the initial touch, again, because they have the ultimates here. They don't have to necessarily play aggressively. They can just play smart and use 1 or 2 ultimates to see if it wins in the fight, and then come back in with their other 2. Grab, though, being the first one, I think is a really smart play from them.
Yeah, Beat's going to be out there. They're throwing a lot in here early on. It looks like it's working out pretty well for them right now. Geom going to be slept away. And while Tiger is cleaning up body after body, it's going to be more than enough. You just hit every Q, you move in, it works out beautifully, and that's a pretty good spot. We do not see a lot of teams be held here. Yeah, there's quite a lot of times you stall here, but to see a team be held this close when it comes to that first checkpoint, it does not happen every day.
No, it doesn't happen every day, like you said. I mean, this is essentially holding them right after the initial point cap, which is, again, you said it's a good stall point because it's a really good and tough choke to actually get through now with this high ground being what it is. But we just don't see teams get stuck here, and that's a big, compliment there to Panama being able to really play it. I think if you're Nicaragua, you had chances to make swaps, but I think you were almost committed a little bit too deep with that composition right there. I really think they had a good idea, and remember, they came out of the gate and it worked for them. It really did. I thought everything was going their way, but then you didn't really allow Panama to come back, and Panama just came back in and shut you down very, very quickly there. And it seemed like Nicaragua was never really able to build back up from that there. And especially as you look at the stats, Hunter, you really start to see a big difference right there. That DPS line, for Panama, I think on their own, I think, hell, just any one of those players on their own has more elims than the entirety of Nicaragua after that first round. That kind of tells you how that entire round went there for these two teams. Nicaragua, you might be saying they're really lucky to have captured that first point there.
Yeah, because it came down to them just having, I think, the right ults at the right time. And at the same time, they did use them effectively to get into that engagement and make them work. But now they need to defend for a while. And Giom is going to try to make this Zarya match here, which, again, you have to see how it goes, because now that you're on the Zarya, you don't have the added benefit you had before with the Winston, where you can get up and down from the high ground with a single thought. If you go down, you are staying down if you're Giom.
But Nate going to be able to find speed boost out there. A huge early pick. They're getting rid of Lucio, but Destiny not going to be able to say the same, though, as Dake. Going to be able to take care of them. So an eye for an eye right now, Hunter, but one eye is going to come back a lot faster than the other.
Yeah, that is an understatement of the century right there. To the point where I think you have to kind of give up of this territory and start playing for that the overpass right there, the underpass, I should say. But this is an awkward area right now because I don't want to be in a room with Takeda in this high ground area right now. It's already nervous enough that you're breaking through these shields like they're absolute butter, as they're going to roll through not just one, but eventually two members of this squad. And with that cut down, this first point is pretty much solidified.
And again, you saw the play coming out there actually from Panama there, especially once GM got on their own. They were investing the bubbles on themselves, and we've talked about in the past, we've seen teams just say, okay, we're just going to pop the bubbles. We'll take the little hit on damage that we're giving the Zarya, but we know once those bubbles are gone, the Zarya's a sitting duck, and that's exactly what Panama did right there. And now they're in a really, really good spot here to be able to end this map really, really quickly. 5 minutes on the time bank. Nicaragua, they have a high hill to climb here to even try to get back here and stop this, as you're already starting to see Panama taking that space on the high ground. It's really going to be up to Destiny here, I think, to get a touch just to try to stall this out a little bit.
Yeah, and you're seeing it is just creeping forward. Someone has to eventually make the play, and Destiny is currently sitting under, is going to be able to get the first touch, but the question is, how much further does it go beyond that? Speed Boost, though, at the very least, just call it out, so something going their way, but Takeda has been given the nano, and you do not want to mess with a nano vendetta, and so far, one down as Scythe come online, everybody's position given away, but still, Giom falling might just solidify this thing right here and now. A little bit of grab for extra measure as Flata eventually going to be cut down, and that is going to be a rather dominant map here for Team Panama. And again, we talked about how good this team looked on that first map. They looked great on the second one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it there, especially after the round ended. You looked at just the kills, you looked at the stats. The fact that Nicaragua got that first point is almost incredible there, especially with how Panama played it on their attacking side. They basically just kind of controlled the space, were able to win fights when they did, and they were very coordinated with their engagements. I mean, especially at that second true engagement, after you saw each team kind of trade out an eye for an eye there, they focused straight on Giom because they understood once Giom's out on that Zarya, Nicaragua really loses a lot of just momentum, a lot of value, and a lot of sustain as well with those bubbles gone. And you saw it right there. Panama played that one perfectly, and the stats really do say a lot here. No one on the side of Nicaragua had 10 elims. Well, the person with the lowest amount of kills or elims for Panama, Enox, had 10 themselves there. So it kind of tells you how that round went there for those two teams. Nicaragua, though, I mean, they had back and forth fights there on that first point. They didn't necessarily have those the second map, or on that first map. They didn't necessarily have those on the second map, as really the only times they really won fights was when they really heavily invested ultimates into them there. Going into the third map here, again, not going to be our final one. We're at least guaranteed 4 tonight. They're going to need to at least change something up here a little bit. Kings Row, not really a surprise, will be our third map. But what does Nicaragua go after with a ban? Looks like they want to go after Takeda with the Vendetta. Yeah. So we're not going to be seeing Overwatch's newest hero, and apparently now the leader, Talon, in this map.
Yeah, and honestly, I like that. I think everybody was making their difference, but if there was the biggest gap in productivity, I think you have to bring up that Vendetta with Takeda. And now that it's out in a situation where going to Kings Row, you have a lot of these fights that are going to be very close quarters, it's difficult to deal with when you have that Vendetta going against you. So I like that. I like the way they're going to go about it. I'm really curious about what Team Panama wants to go with their own ban, because after a map like that, it's hard to argue what is a correct choice and what is not. And you almost have to base it back on Lijiang more than anything else.
Well, you can't go after Venture, honestly, because I think that's been maybe the hero that's found the most success here for Nicaragua throughout the night. But there is some other stuff that you definitely could see come out. I mean, that tank line's still there. We've had a tank ban every map so far. You could go after Lucio again if you really expect Flata to come back out on this map. I don't think it would be the worst idea, honestly, from Team Panama. Hell, you go after Brig. We just saw Flata play that last map. Granted, did have the second most healing in the lobby last map on that break, so maybe you want to try to get rid of that, have them go back over to that aggressive Lucio playstyle we saw from them, because hey, I think, like we said, it leaves them vulnerable at times, but at the same time it does really help out Nicaragua here. So it's gonna be interesting to see what that second ban is here eventually when I do get back over to that page. It's Ana, honestly. It's Ana, actually.
Yeah, I don't hate this at all. I think this is final things considered. I think realistically it just gets rid of a tool, because we saw Cube Master earlier over on the Ana, and especially when you're looking at first point of King's Row, I think the Ana can be very effective, especially having all that high ground presence. Now, obviously, as to how much that will affect what they do here overall, I don't think it affects a whole lot. I think we're going back to a lot of the Lucio-based compositions we saw originally back on Lijiang. But the question is, will there be any more adjustments outside of that? Because remember, it might be hard to think too much about how that second map went. Lijiang was an incredibly close map between both of these teams.
It really was. I mean, both teams, they did have their struggles, and they did have their really excel at points. I mean, again, if you go back and look at the stats, you can still kind of tell that, you know, Panama should have won that map maybe a little bit easier than what they did. But Nicaragua, they've been able just to find ways to win fights. And that's one thing that they need to kind of start to snowball into. Hey, they won this fight. They won 2-3 fights in a row to really get them going. Because I think this is a team for Nicaragua. Once they get that momentum built up, it almost feels like a team that could be almost unstoppable here. But coming out of the gate, really no big heroes, no big surprises being selected here with heroes. Maybe Tiger coming out on the Ashe, other than the Sojourn here, is a little bit surprising, but I don't necessarily hate it, because Dynamite is very, very valuable, especially with the other team of Nicaragua, probably will not play a Kiriko. It really doesn't force some people to kind of hide around corners, and even forces maybe Geom, who you see on that Zarya, to use a bubble, maybe just to stop the burning from happening there. Other than that, it's almost back to what we were seeing back on map 1 here. Cube Master, though, because no Ana, over to the Juno here again. Navy looking for a head before I think they're going to immediately swap right back over to a Soj.
Yeah, and the double speed is going to be very interesting, because this is a very good short-term thing, but the longer this fight goes on, I think the better it's realistically going to work out for Team Panama. You have the Kiriko, which, the way this character works, this character will be good for short or long-term fights, realistically. And then you have to worry about trying to get all this charge up online, which so far, Bolsari is doing a great job of doing. The Flata being down first does make things a little bit interesting, but the fact that Navy goes down, yeah, that is going to solidify that first fight right there. Geom might be able to get out with all that charge, and as a matter of fact, will. So that, again, that is a big plus.
And again, if Flata's trying to follow Destiny around here, be able to help their Venture just play this aggressive playstyle that you want with the Venture. But again, we've talked about, I think it's a hindrance and a benefit sometimes. It's a benefit if it's really working for Flata. They're able to find a lot of value and help Destiny find kills. It's a hindrance if they're the first one taking alpha. It's like they were last time.
Oh, 100%. But hey, Navy getting them off to a really good start here. Destiny, though, is going to trade directly back with that next one. And with that, should see the cleanup start coming through. Now you really need to try to get rid of these last two. If you do, that first point is going to be solidified. And with that, yeah, you're going to throw 3 bodies back onto it, and you should be able to have this first one locked in.
Takeda, though, running up the map as if they might look to try to get a touch here. I don't think they will. I don't think it'll be the smartest thing. But with only one member on the point right now, you're kind of leaving yourself an opportunity for Panama to come right back in and contest if you're Nicaragua. Here, Takeda trying to get up on that high ground. And yeah, there's going to be a contest coming out here.
Yeah, but it's just
there was one.
Yeah, and you lose out on Takeda, which means you lose out on being able to hold this area as strongly as you would have initially desired.
Yeah, and I mean, you give up Archers, which we talked about, is always a very strong just choke point to hold at here. Maybe one of the strongest and most well-known in the game. But I feel like we've started to see teams kind of go away from that. They're actually okay with the cart being pushed up a little bit, taking a fight, and then trying to force it back to Archers, which always just ends up, I feel like, working out for the defending team here. Ultimate's still going to be coming online here pretty fast. Dake going to have their grab here pretty soon. Geom, though, not that far behind, and Cube Master, no peek going to be ready for the grab from Dake, but that orbital ray from them might actually be the response they're looking for here, as they've used it in the past.
Yeah, grabs being aligned are really important right now. It's being thrown out. Everyone's in a little corner right now. It's just Tiger trying to potch up from the top rope. Got rid of 2, unfortunately. It's just them and Speed Boost remaining, and they are in a very awkward area. But still, Destiny goes in solo, and now Flata goes in solo. Somehow manages to get the finish. I can hear in the comms right there, Destiny yelling, "They're one, they're one, they're one," and it works out quite well.
The one time that your teammates saying they're one and they're actually one right there comes to help them out a little bit, but now if you're Nicaragua, you're going to have to back out. You're going to have to back up here. You're going to have to go into the space because Panama's going to be able to come back out here a little bit faster with their entire team, while everyone for your team still kind of far behind here. But granted, both grabs were used that last fight. Beats ready for both sides. Top shock though, out from Destiny pretty early on. Bob is the counter.
Yeah, and the Bob is going to find a little bit of presence, but Takeda is going to get a little bit of help from that beat. It thrown both ways, and Takeda is going to have a blade available, but it doesn't have the full health yet to be able to sustain through something like that. And I think right there, you're going to lose out on the Zarya. This should be set and match when it comes to the second point. And yeah, they're going to be pushed out, but again, this is already so much better than that second performance. And I think it shows where I think the specialization of this Nicaragua team comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see this aggressive playstyle come out from them. You're starting to see Destiny really find value, Flata find value. But like I said, one thing that Nicaragua needed was they need to win a couple fights in a row, because this is a team that I think once they have some momentum, can be really hard to shut down. And so far, that's been the case here right now. If you're Panama, you're looking to shut them down, try to take back some of that momentum. Consumer's out here from Anox early, trying to force it back, but it looks like Nicaragua just going to try to back out of it instead.
Yeah, but it's going to be Takeda who gets rid of 2. He's going to look for that the trick. Oh, they're going to get away with it. That's what I'm trying to say at the end of the day. They get rid of 4. They clean things up beautifully. And but again, the bright side is Geom gets out with that charge.
Geom gets out with the charge here, but the Zarya, that charge, that kind of goes away pretty fast here. They've already invested 1 bolo to try to keep it up, which it will help them out here, especially as they're already 75% up to another grab, almost lapping here, or 30% better than what their counterpart on the other side. Remember, they use grabs at the same exact time here, and there's nothing ready to go right now for Panama. If you're Nicaragua, this is your time to really find a lot of value and try to get a quick team fight victory.
Yeah, and you lose your Zarya so early on. Cart is going to start moving forward. You're now in 1-fight territory. Now, you do use 2 ultimates for that engagement, but still, Tiger's the only one who's even relatively close to having their hold online.
But you have grab ready to go right now, and especially with everyone for Nicaragua forcing that one exit out, they're going to be in a good spot to just use the grab here and try to trap some people, and that's exactly what happens. And they trap, I think, the valuable targets.
Yeah, and Bob's going to hit with a 100th of a meter left, by the way. That 100th of a meter, though, might end up making some level of difference. Tiger is going to start getting rained down. Both of them are so incredibly low, but the Bob on its own, it's going to come down to a 2v2 over down on the point. Takeda and Speed Boost are there. They're going to cut through and somehow win it.
Oh my goodness, and if somehow Nicaragua does not finish this map here, or this round with a full map completion, it's gonna be all on Tiger's Bob, just getting one last touch. However, Nicaragua is still in a really good spot here with ultimates, considering that Bob just came out. You're gonna have beat, you're gonna have Titan Shock, you have tools here to use for Nicaragua. Panama, they really don't have anything. You're really hoping that Diggs can be able to build up to their grab pretty quickly in this engagement. Honestly, if you're Panama, you're just looking for one early pick, and you know that there's going to be at least 2 players on the other side who like to play aggressive here.
Yeah, they do. A little bit of difficulties right now, but hey, we're in this one. We're trying to get this one underway. We're 2 minutes left. As Xion with all of that sweet health right now. Unfortunately, the enemy side cannot say the same thing. Destiny is trying to get this thing shut down, over with, and it's looking like eventually we'll be able to do so. No Bob in sight. 1:39 on the clock. All they considered, even with the struggles that came through momentarily, that's a really good performance.
A really good performance. I mean, you always talk about it. If you give yourself more than a minute on any of these push map or hybrid maps or push maps or escort maps, you're really putting yourself in a good spot. And for Nicaragua, they needed something here. This was a big struggle for them throughout the entirety of these first 2 maps. They just needed to get something going their way, and they found that here. They found some consistency, and it worked out for them well. And you started to see a change in their play. You saw Destiny, you saw Navy really just feel a little bit more comfortable with their play styles there, and it worked out for them. Flata as well. I think they really toned back the aggressive play style coming out from them, and it really benefited their team there. And it really gave, I honestly think, Panama some problems there, as they were more tame with their Lucio play, really sticking around their team, really helping Destiny out. That was a big problem for Panama. Panama now, the attacking side, I really don't expect much swaps from them here. Flata on Nicaragua defense side, looks like it's actually going to be the Wu Yang coming out here instead of the Lucio. I do like that a little bit better for them. It still allows them to play aggressively, but they can now be a more of a poke support player here and be able to find damage that way, which I think will work out for them in the end. Ooh, Takeda though, coming out on the Echo. I like that here, especially because you're really just saying, okay, you're going to be looking at Navy here to shut them down. They are basically calling them out here saying, I don't think you're going to be that big of a problem to me in the sky. You also still have Dake there to bubble them when they get aggressive on that Echo, because you hope that they do. But, ooh, Tiger, they land a headshot. However, they land the headshot onto the one person that won't die from it.
Yeah, unfortunate situation, which, by the way, Destiny's in the back, gets rid of Tiger, and now still kind of hanging around a little bit. Needs to be careful not to be caught with the stickies. Will luckily manage to avoid it, but is what you're hoping for right here. Destiny's been really good at putting all of this pressure on throughout the series so far. Working out really well for them. They just got to keep up that level of consistency.
Yeah, and again, a great start here. You always will take these one picks, even though the attacker spawn's right there. You just want that. Slow it down a little bit, gives you some time to set up, gives you some time to talk about what you're seeing from the other side here. As Destiny, again, going straight after Tiger, but they're going to be able to burrow out just barely this time around.
Yeah, barely is an understatement. Another quarter of a second could have been enough to decide death right there, and honestly, potentially decide this first point. But you see all of the charges building up between both of these Zaryas. Takeda trying to send out these mines, unfortunately not really catching on to anything. This could be already a competition of Q-Master, who is getting closer and closer, 60+% right now. You see this rundown in the backline, but it puts Geom in a really weird situation where, yeah, Takeda's low, but no one's there to be able to finish it off.
And again, though, I think right now, if you're Nicaragua, you're okay with this. It's just Panama using time here, and they're really not engaging onto the point because they need Takeda in a lot of these fights here. Destiny, though, not going to be able to escape this time around, not fully in the ground. This is the moment where you see Panama kind of just pounce on the point and some more members of Nicaragua.
Yeah, but you still have all this amazing charge from Geom. This is not over yet. Still, you got to try to sustain these members. Navy needs to try to get out alive, and instead, here comes that aggression. They're going to try to go in and get somebody knocked away. Unfortunately, doesn't really happen, but again, you're building up more to those ultimate. You're going to eventually have your orbital ray for this fight, and that's so important.
The orbital ray, though, I think at this point might just need to be held for the grab. Actually, no, it's going to be used right now. That grab from Dake's going to be free, and they get rid of Navy early on.
Yeah, and you see the grab came out right there. Geom, though, eventually burnt down. You get rid of speed boost, but that's just not going to be enough. You're going to see a lot of deaths coming through. You are, importantly, seeing that last death over on the point. The question is that enough to convince you can retouch? And I think the answer is obviously no.
No, I don't think, even if you had a Lucio here, I don't think they would be even able to get back to the point in time. So it's now going to be Nicaragua trying to just get a hold at some point here. Is it going to be at the bookstore? Is it going to be at the bar? It looks like they're going to be trying to at least get set up and maybe potentially try to take archers here very, very quickly. However, they do have both their DPS ultimates coming up here. If you look at the other side, though, DPS ultimates already ready for Panama, but that grab from Dake going to be the biggest thing in here in this fight, especially with nothing really to counter it on the other side. This could be deadly, Hunter, if everyone on Nicaragua decides to play very, very close to each other.
Yeah, I think you're hoping that you can throw this right against the corner right here and just pull everybody onto it. But I don't imagine I'd be too picky in the situation right now, especially when you have the ult advantage that you have. But now you have someone like Destiny who is coming back here and is going to be able to pull something off. Grab comes through, but already managing to find two, and this grab is going to find enough to eventually shut this down. But you still have Destiny hanging around. As a matter of fact, they're going to finish everybody off. Enox is going to eventually go down, but unfortunately, I think they're still going to have to back out here momentarily.
They're still going to have to back out, especially with Geom clinging on to life, let's just say it like that for the moment. Destiny's still around here, and at this point, if you're Panama, you have to know that they are going to be lurking around some corners, so you're probably checking all the corners as if you were playing maybe a game like CS here. But look at the DPS line here for Panama. Still has both their ultimates ready to go. Never used them last time. There's the dupe out from Takeda onto Geom on that Zarya.
Yeah, 100%, and it's going to create all of this amazing room for them because you don't want to get hit with two grabs. That is, one grab is bad enough. Two, though, would suck, but it's going to be on just in time. It's going to catch over on a Geom, who's going to be, unfortunately, not giving it. But still, this fight is going the other way. Tiger wants to be able to clutch up. Unfortunately, I don't think it's worth using the overclock, and especially not anymore as they're the last current survivor, and unfortunately, survivor is a very loose term.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was probably a mistake from Flata not to give that to Geom there. I mean, if you give that to Geom, that fight probably still goes the way it did, but Geom's alive, and you don't really have to give up any space here. Geom playing that Zarya, you kind of just see him right-click jumping all the way back here. But they're going to be able to get back here in time, not really give up that much space, but they're not going to be able to be in that prime position here. Still, Kitsune Rush, overclock, ready to go here for Panama. Kitsune Rush already used here early on. Anox looking to try to get this team to play as aggressively as they were back in those first two maps where they were finding so much value.
Yeah, and there's so much edge coming through here for Destiny, able to get rid of Inox really early on, and now you have a 2v2 separation going on here. Beat is going to be given. It's a rough situation for the Zarya, though, but the bubbles are still active, and there's no one to realistically follow up either, so this should be the second point, pretty solidified. You might be able to get Flata and Q-Master up, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to justify a touch.
Q-Master's definitely going to get out. Flata, on the other hand, yeah, they're not going to get out right there. I think a big part of that fight was the fact that Destiny put themselves a little bit too far in the back line and then just couldn't get out. Destiny's been a really big linchpin for Nicaragua in a lot of the fights they've won so far this round, just because they've been able to get in the background. They've been able to do so much. Geom's been able to give them bubbles to get out, and that has just been the key to Nicaragua in a lot of these fights now. Anox getting off the Kiri. Speed was also getting off the Lucio here. Brig, Juno coming out now from Panama. They want to play a little bit aggressively. They want to be able to face Destiny a little bit more better, or a little bit better here as Navidity already finds one.
Yeah, and it's working out really well. They're going to start moving forward. Jim finding the finish as well. That's going to be a quick fight done and dusted. And already, even if things go worst case scenario, you're going to have better time. But you are set up in good position with this ult economy to push this thing the full 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Geom, though, did use grab that fight. And you see Day coming up to their grab. You still have Tiger holding on this overclock here. Takeda has a duplicate again. Tiger's been holding on this overclock now for a while. If you're in Nicaragua, you know they have that. You're just waiting for them to really use it here. Q-Master, though, that orbital ray, gonna be a big tool here, but no tool gonna be there for Nate as they're taken out by those stickies.
Yeah, and with that, I think you just have to surrender yourself and die on this card, but they're willing to invest a little bit. But hey, honestly, you don't hate this at the end of the day. They're going to be burnt away and lose the fight. Tiger is going to use that as well, but just for that use, you get the grab out.
You get the grab out, you get overclock out as well. I mean, Tiger's been holding that onto that for so long. And Grant, all you did there was use your Tidal Blast, but you still have Orbital Ray, you still have your own overclock as well. There's a duplicate out from Takeda as they're already trying to get another grab online as they're focusing exclusively on the Geom.
Yeah, but you're seeing the Orbital Ray going to be used here, and grab is available. It's going to be chucked out at the last second, catches on to 3. You're going to have all those stickies there. Takeda's already back to 30%. But needs to find some kind of finish. Unfortunately, gonna be knocked away, finished off here, now with 45 seconds on the board, and only double support ultimates available. This is gonna be extremely back and forth coming up here.
Ooh, I don't think Geom knew that they were basically standing right next to Speed Boost there. That would have been a huge stagger pick to find if they knew they were there. Now you talked about double support ultimates coming up here for Panama. Does actually put them in a good spot, I think, especially with Destiny gonna probably have that Tectonic Shock ready to go here early on, but Speed Boost engages with the rally. Interesting.
Yeah, and now with 15 seconds on the board here, this is going to go to overtime no matter what. It would take a colossal thing to happen here to stop that from being the case. But Tiger's already down, and Nox is going to be able to get this orbital ray in time. Destiny dying, though, is honestly maybe one of the worst case scenarios. But here comes that grab. Everyone thrown in. The Tidal Blast is there. Thrown into the back line. 2 going to be knocked down. 2 taken care of. And this is going to be Nicaragua taking their first map of the series. Tiger with one more touch. Unfortunately, there will not be another. This one is settled.
And finally, we were looking for some consistency from Nicaragua here tonight, and we do get that. It took them a little bit longer than probably what they were hoping for, but this was a good map for them. It was everything through and through. We've normally seen just maybe individual good performances from Nicaragua, but this was a whole good team performance. Everything was working together very well for Nicaragua. Panama, on the other hand, I think they just finally, just the wear and tear of what this Nicaraguan comp was for them finally got to them. In the first map, you kind of saw it there at points, but maybe a couple minor mistakes from Nicaragua allowed Panama to come back in that first map. Second map, it was all Team Panama. Really, we talked about the fact that Nicaragua got that first point on Dorado to be almost incredible. The fact they're able to get that there. Team Panama really dominated that map. Nicaragua dominated Kings Row there. And Hunter, well, It's a best of 7, so we're at least guaranteed 5 maps tonight. I think that's great for both these two teams here, but especially just looking at the stats for that round there, you finally started to see Nicaragua really pull ahead there. I mean, the DPS line, more elims, the support line, way more elims, and Geom, who had really been struggling throughout this series, I would think, finally had a great map. 30 elims, 5 deaths. Compare that to Dig, 16 and 10. I mean, they finally were able to start establishing themselves in this series here a little bit, or in this friendly match, and finally were able to take it to Panama there and really force them into spots that they just felt like they were not comfortable with. And we were talking about coming into that map with Geom, what tank were we going to see? Because it seemed like every tank we had seen from them, it really hadn't worked out for them so far. But the Zarya mirror, that might be their bread and butter now.
Yeah, it just might be. It is when you are put in a situation where you can find that right level of comfortability. I mean, again, this is much of the same squad that we saw take a map off of the representatives for Team Mexico last year during the Copa Americana. This team is capable of going in and having that comfortability and having worked very well for them. What's important now is taking what you did at that map and trying to make it consistent for the rest of the series. And they got a good chance of doing that. We know our next map is going to be Coliseo, but before you cut Takada down at the knees, this time they are cutting Destiny down at the knees, the Venture being banned out.
Yeah, like I said, I thought we potentially could have seen Venture be banned out last map if we didn't already see Takada get cut down at the knees with a Vendetta. Venture has been a mainstay for a lot of these comps that Nicaragua has run throughout the night here. And that map we talked about, it really found the value we're truly looking for there. It saw the playstyle as well. We talked about Flada trying to always be with Destiny, be able to help them out a lot of the times. That map, it worked very, very well. The Zarya Bows allowed Destiny to really play strongly into that composition there. Ana being banned out again is a little interesting heading into Coliseo, especially since we haven't seen Panama, I believe, play Ana throughout the night. So interesting ban coming out here from Nicaragua, since they're the only team that's played that so far. Lucio's I expect to be back on the table for both these two teams here. Doesn't look like we're seeing any subs come back in. Either Dake is going to be staying in here. I hope I'm saying that name right. Jazer, I'm surprised we actually haven't seen Jazer come back in yet. I thought they did really well on that first map. But these two teams really showing us right now that these are 5 players that they are very, very comfortable with.
Yep, I think that this is what you love to see at the end of the day. When you find this level of comfortability, even in a show match like this, your choice is to stick with it and see how far you can carry that momentum away. And they've won 1 map, that means they can win another 3. And now when you go to the Coliseo, where at the very least, these neutral fights are going to be all about fighting on the ground, it's going to be really important. Obviously, things are going to change a lot once we get towards these checkpoint areas where there is a lot of high ground to work with, a lot of little buildings you can get into. But most importantly, we bring it every time we talk about push, is about getting that opening momentum, and especially getting that opening checkpoint as well. The win rate in your favor, if you manage to do that first, is staggering.
And especially last night, you could look at it here, because this was the final map we saw last night between Chile and Costa Rica. And Costa Rica came out of the gate and basically never let their foot off the gas. They completed the map in, I think, 3 minutes, which is, I think, almost as fast as you possibly can complete it here. However, no big surprise coming out here for either's teams. Takeda and Destiny now going to be joining them on the Vendetta. Still, though, you do see Nicaragua sticking with the Q Master on the Juno. That's kind of been their go-to support here for them. I'm honestly so surprised we haven't seen Akiriko come out from them just yet, surprised with how much Anox has been able to find with it. But I'm thinking they really just like the extra little bit of speed you can get from that Juno play.
Yeah, and Destiny being over on this Vendetta for this as well is going to be pretty interesting to see, because obviously we've really seen the majority of that Venture throughout the night. But to be fair, they both kind of work in very similar ways with one another. But we'll be able to see that Takada duel once again. Those two have been going back and forth throughout the whole day. But it's going to be Tiger who's going to fall first and foremost. It's very much in their favor, but see things starting to go a little back and forth. You lose out on speed boost as well, but Destiny and Flada down, so now it's down to these tanks and these supports that kind of still hanging around and keep us alive.
Yeah, right now, I think if you're trying to back out here, you don't necessarily have the numbers. Maybe going to find them here and now. Oh, Anox going to be able to just barely escape with their lives here. I'm going to have to remember that the team has swapped sides for the first time tonight. But right now, I mean, you're liking this right here. If you're Nicaragua, everything's starting to go your way. You got a good start there. Yeah, you traded out in that first fight, but you'll take that. You have the lead now. No ultimates other than your orbital ray from Q-Master coming up here very quickly. And if you're Nicaragua, you could play that very, very soon here to try to get you a good fight and potentially even those first checkpoints. Because Hunter, like you said, very important to get that checkpoint first.
Yep, and what's going to be really critical here is Q-Master is going to have a little something to work with here with this orbital ray. Obviously, no use for it quite yet, but honestly, trying to get rid of the opposing Zarya is super important here, but at the very least, they've taken a good lead, and they're one fight away from realistically getting that checkpoint already.
And again, I mean, Destiny going over to this Vendetta has worked out great for them tonight. Takeda has kind of been shut down by them. Flata, though, barely escaped with their life here, but this is a moment where if you're Panama, you're in a good spot, but that Kitsune Rush, ooh, that's one you're going to want back.
Yeah, and they're all going to get out of here alive, and that's so important because now you can just take a mid-fight, double support ultimates. Attack is right around the corner from having the grab, but I don't know if that's going to be enough going into this much right here, but they're going to send the orbital right out. They're going to throw everything into the face and destroy it before the grab can even be on line. Takeda eventually going to be cut out, and with a little bit more stall here, this first checkpoint should be secured, and right now, Nicaragua still in great position. Great position, and again, it seemed like Kings Row was just the medicine they needed there to really get them to wake up, and man, have they woken up good here. Speed boost, though, not having this beat ready to go here, especially as GM has their own grab here. Give me something very early here, but Takeda, swinging the blade, gonna be able to at least shut down the Flata, so there's no more beat ready for Nicaragua. Yeah, but look at the beauty of this. They got one, they had an ally to get out, and they immediately got out. So they're able to recollect. Flata gets good spawn. They're going to be able to regroup instantly for this midpoint here in a few seconds, and they still have what's going to be an ult advantage momentarily. Yeah, very momentarily. Destiny, though, going to have their Sunring Blade at some point in this fight. Do they use it almost immediately? Do they pair it up with Geom? That's going to be something really interesting to see here, especially as you just see the Vendettas going at each other, swinging their swords as if we're back in medieval times. Yeah, but both grabs being ready, both beats being ready is going to make things very interesting. You see everybody's trying to not stay together so there's not an easy grab target, but they're guys going to throw it in, gets nobody from it. But here we go, Destiny letting this loose, able to get rid of one. And that's going to solidify this one away. It is quite an investment at the end of the day, though. That is 4 ultimates total there for Nicaragua. 4 for 2 there, but if you're Nicaragua, you get the cart back, you get the bot back, you're gonna be able to add on to your lead here. That time bank almost halfway gone, and granted, you really don't have much to worry about on the other side. Yeah, you have Tiger with that overclock ready to go, and Anox not that far away from a Kitsune Rush, but you have time here to take space and add on to your lead, because once you know those 2 ultimates are gone for Panama, you're kind of in a good spot here yourself, but if you're Navy, you barely get out with your life there. Yeah, now the overclock online for Tiger is going to be able to get a lot more space for their squad. And hey, literally, once again, they're in bad position. They get out together. Again, you talk about this core knowing each other well. They all make the call of, hey, we're out of here. We need to reset. Hunter, me and you talk about this a lot when it comes to push maps. These 50-50 fights where one team just takes space, backs up. That's exactly what we're seeing Nicaragua do here. And I think it's a very sound play because it really puts Panama, I think, into a spot where, especially in this initial corridor, they struggle to find a lot of value with this composition. Yeah, and Flata going to be caught out means everyone needs to run for the heals, but you don't have that little bit extra speed, so it is on the tougher side. But with Q-Master being there, looks like everybody's going to be able to get out momentarily, but you still have plenty of time to group together here, especially because you're about to have this orbital ray once again. Yeah, and Hunter, let me just say this. There's only been 2 members of Nicaragua to die this map. 3 members of them have yet to die. They're making, I believe, 2 now. That's Navidi's, I think, first death on the map. Yeah, but eventually they give everything to get rid of Dak right there. It works out really well. And now this is going to start heading back the other way. And they're going to have to surrender some space because you have all this charge if you're Geom, and Dak's going to come back with at least nothing for the time being. As Geom also has nothing. Yeah, Geom has nothing here. Takeda's going to be really the only one with an ultimate ready to go this fight here. Remember, it found one last time, but at this moment right now, you're really seeing the... Destiny finds speed boost. But what I was going to say was, whenever Panama finds one pick, that's all that you need to do here to just force Nicaragua back. So right now, you're desperately looking for that one pick. Yeah, you are, but you have a Sunring Blade available. If you're talking to, you have a chance to start bringing this one back around, but that lead is just getting further and further and further away from you. this is getting out of hand. It's been out of hand for the last minute or two, quite honestly. You need to win a fight here to turn things around. And Tiger getting a Cube Master is going to start that process, as you should be able to burn away Geom, but at the end of the day, you don't hate that. You build up to more ultimates, you don't use anything either, so we're going into another fight where it's going to be extremely ult-heavy.
Extremely ult-heavy here, and now Destiny actually going to be staggered out here a little bit. They should still get forward spawns here, but you talked about ultimate heavy fight coming up here. You're going to have 4 ultimates basically ready to go here. Actually, 3 ultimates basically ready to go for Panama. This is a moment right now where if you're Panama, this is a huge fight, not only just for the momentum of this map, but potentially of the series, but Geom not going to get the beat.
Oh, man. That's rough. You don't get, and now it's going to be nearly impossible to pull this fight back. Destiny is eventually going to be chased down, and now you need to run to get a reset, but unfortunately, they're just still getting cut down, and the question is, can they regroup in time for one more touch?
Like I said, that fight was going to be very important, not only for Panama in this map, but in the series, because momentum was slowly starting to get away from there. You got beat out from Flata. Now your grab from Dick is going to be huge for them here. There's nothing to really counter it out. So you need to be smart here now if you're oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that's rough. And hey, right side, you get rid of one. Unfortunately, Geom, you are now alone. They're going to fall back over the cart and just move it momentarily. Which, to be fair, you know, maybe looking a little further in the future, maybe that extra meter or two means something.
An 80-meter lead now almost evaporated, Hunter. It's about to be 30 right here. That 80-meter lead came with 3.5 minutes to go. We're at 2 minutes to go now. It's how much can change in 90 seconds here. And look, Panama still has 3 really good ultimates. Nicaragua, man, they're putting a lot on the Sundering Blade.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be big right now, but it's Geom who's going to be down again. In rough situation, Tiger takes them out. And this lead taken away, but it might be more than a lead at this point now. You're in Final Fight territory. You are up against the wall.
Has all started to fall apart here for Nicaragua. The great start, the first 6 minutes of this map, it was all them. The last 2.5, oh, it's been all Team Panama here, and they're trying to end it with an exclamation mark.
Yeah, that they are, and the possibility is very heavily there, but Dak going down early kind of opens up the door for you a little bit here. We're talking it down. I think eventually you have to fall out of this. But to be fair, the fact that you take this lead, it's going to take so much for Nicaragua to pull this one back.
Hey, it's going to be so much, but Hunter, we've seen it in the past, especially on Coliseo. This is definitely a map that, unlike I think some of the other push maps, once a team gets going, they, I think, run into some favorable fight opportunities, especially if you can take a fight here pretty early on, get the spawns reset, and win it pretty quickly here. If you're Nicaragua, you almost get your own forward spawns back for free right after that, and they're slowly rotating back into, I think, a better ultimate economy than what Panama has at the moment.
Yeah, speed boost is hitting low, but those ult economies only matter so much when you lose somebody that early on, especially with 40 seconds left on the clock here. You need to get everybody out as fast as humanly possible, or in this case, maybe die as fast as humanly possible, because now from here on out for Nicaragua, they have to play absolutely perfectly.
And honestly, there's a part of me that's thinking, once Panama gets to the spots about where it is right now, just stop. Just get off of it. You want to try to force Nicaragua to make a long walk through you back to it here, but they're actually going to walk the bot back to Nicaragua, giving Nicaragua here a good chance. However, you have B coming up here now for Panama. You're in a good spot. 3 ultimates so ready for the other side. That Orbital Ray, I know QMF's going to want to use it here early, but I think they need to hold on to it.
Yeah, that's going to be such an important ult to have down the line, and the part that sucks is you only get 1 out of that whole process. You still lose Destiny as well, so now you're down to 2 and maybe 3 ultimates coming up here, but for Panama, they're going to be at all 5 soon.
Yeah, and like, here's the thing, Destiny started off this map great on the Vendetta. These last 4 minutes, they've really fallen off. They've really just started to struggle here. Overclock Alphido from Navy. Geom gonna be able to find the first pick.
Yeah, but they're all in there. They're gonna be obliterated. Enox gets rid of 2. You find the finish. It's just Destiny and Flata in there. And unfortunately, it's just not gonna be enough. It's an incredibly back and forth affair, but Panama will pull it back and take the 4th map away.
4th map done and dusted, and now we are officially on match point here tonight as Panama, I mean, that first 5 minutes of the map, and they were almost kind of playing like they were back on King's Row, but they really locked in there and made a huge difference for them. Again, we talked about an 80-meter comeback they basically got rid of in 90 seconds. They played really well. Nicaragua, though, I don't know what went wrong. That first 6 minutes, I think we are basically praising them for all the plays they're doing. They would lose one person, back out of the fight, immediately come back in really quickly. It worked for them time after time after time again. But there was some point there where it just didn't work anymore. And Panama just was able to siphon all the momentum away. And Nicaragua was they seemed kind of lost. And you could really go back to, I think, the beats that were used there. They were used at the same exact time. It was, I believe, Flata trying to get that beat there to Guillaume, but Guillaume died just a second before. And that right there, I think you could say is maybe the straw that broke the camel's back. But there's probably a lot of other stuff that happened in that map leading up to that point that really allowed Panama to come back in. Now sitting on match point here, Nicaragua has their final map selection of the night.
Yep, and we're having the bans begin to come through here. And interestingly enough, the Roadhog is what's banned out. And I think this is interesting. To be fair, I don't think that thing went down completely to 0, but I'm going to assume this is the actual pick. And I don't hate this for a certain reason. And the certain reason is that this sounds like a protection, if this is what this was meant to be, to make sure that you still have all of your options available in the situation if you are someone like Guillaume, which, to be fair, on certain heroes has been extremely impressive. I think even in this map as well, they're in that exact same camp. They are going toe-to-toe now against their Powder DAC, which wasn't exactly the case in some of these other maps, but right now, I think it most certainly is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you said it right. This is probably mostly a protection ban here because I don't remember who banned out Zarya map 1. If it was Panama or if it was Nicaragua here. My feeling was it was probably Nicaragua. But I think Zarya is going to be the way to go here for them. And Panama was probably just going to say, okay, Zarya's been strong. That's probably going to be the hero that gets taken away from here. But you also have to remember now that you're going to see our Venture back in play here. And we actually do have a sub coming in here for Team Panama. It is, I think, going to the bench, going to be Takeda for the first time tonight. And now coming in is Kunkaran.
Yeah, and we talked about them quite a bit. Obviously, when we did the roster earlier, we talked about their name, but this is our first time seeing them in action at all, honestly. And I'm excited to see what it is that they can do in this particular situation. Again, you're filling in for Takeda, who, by all rights, was doing a lot of amazing things throughout all 4 of these maps so far. Never a time where they got, like, really quiet either. Had a really good level of consistency. But you want to get Conqueron in here, get a little bit more of that experience, and I should say, being able to actually play with the team a little more. Because remember, teams aren't locked down to 5-man rosters for World Cup. I believe they're going to be able to have at least 7 people that can be in there. So having players in this situation that can come in and play just as good, if not better, that is important for these teams.
Yeah, and again, we do have to stress this right now, since committees have not been fully approved just yet for all these teams that we have been covering so far. Stuff can and probably will change with a lot of these teams. Well, granted, we only might know of maybe one committee or 2, and I think a couple cases out there, committees that have applied for it. There is stuff that can still definitely change with these rosters, with these teams, and with everything about it. But right now, these 2 teams have been showing up really good. I think Kunkaran coming in here is going to be really good for Team Panama. It shows a little bit of different DPS line coming in as well. I think, again, like you said, gives us more experience, gives us more knowledge of these players. I think it's gonna be really good for Team Panama, who, again, Hunter, we came into the night talking about how me and you knew Nicaragua pretty well through whether it be Copa America, I think a little bit of Face It League, I think some other leagues as well. We have definitely seen them play in a lot of these players, at least. Panama, though, a lot of new faces to us, and so far, these new faces, man, they have been very, very impressive here tonight. Maybe one of the stronger teams that we have actually seen so far through all these friendly matches that we have covered. But still, as we wait for everyone to get into the lobby, as we're waiting on one member of Nicaragua to come in here. I mean, it's been really strong performances for both these teams. Nicaragua, I think they finally found that consistency they were looking for. Granted, fell apart there towards the end of Coliseo right there, but still, you're looking for that consistency here. Again, Juno gonna be our second ban coming out here, and I think you're Team Panama, great ban. I mean, you've been seeing Cube Master play that Juno throughout the night here tonight, force Nicaragua to play something different on that back line. The last time they actually made a support ban was, I believe, back on actually they haven't, it was the Ana back on Kings Row. Granted, it didn't necessarily help them there, or it didn't necessarily help them there, but there's still good bans that could come out here. I think the Juno was honestly a really good one. Like I said, Q-Master has been playing it throughout the night, forces Nicaragua now to play a little bit of a different backline, which I think we've seen them just kind of struggle with when they've had to do that.
Yeah, they have struggled quite a bit in that situation, but obviously going into this potentially last map, you just have to be able to make it work. It's a situation where you know where you are and what you need to be able to accomplish. And I think it really is as simple as that in the situation. I think you've been able to learn a lot from this situation as well. So it's going to be all about them trying to solidify what they have learned, and at least for the side of Panama, being able to kind of replicate the success that you have had with a DPS or a different DPS in there.
And look at this, without the Juno, we're seeing Kiriko come out here from Nicaragua as a team that swaps sides again. But I think this is really good. I think this has been something that me and you have kind of been hoping to see from Nicaragua here at some point tonight. They've been playing a lot of Juno, they've been playing a lot of different backlines. I think the Kiriko, though, is going to really help them out here. But Conqueror coming in, basically be filling that same role that they were coming in for there for Takeda, playing that Vendetta. It's going to be really fun to see it, but Destiny back on this Venture. Again, Venture won't be banned out the rest of the series for however long it goes. I think that actually helps out Nicaragua in the long run, if we do go more maps.
Yeah, 100% here, and hey, Ken, if you're Nicaragua, you are needing to get off to a good start, but losing Flada, I can't say bears well for them in that situation, but you still have someone like Destiny hanging around, isn't able to get the mega health pack in time, though. At the very least, though, you're going to start with the point here. I don't know how long this is going to last.
I don't know how long it's going to last either. You lose Destiny, but still, you're going to try to stall it out as long as you possibly can, especially on Flashpoint. That really does help you. Maybe it even saves you a fight. If you could find one pick, though, you could immediately turn it right back, because you could see Destiny come back in, but losing Geom, you're going to have to see the Nicaragua team we saw last map basically just get out at this point.
Yeah, 32% though. They get that first fight away. Both teams building up pretty nicely to get things started as Flada goes down. And again, Panama's been really good at finding these little last-second picks to really push these percentiles even further.
Yeah, and honestly, right now, if you're Panama, you just want to do the exact same thing you did back on map 1. You're starting to take that space here again. That's one thing that really gave Nicaragua some problems here. Granted, you're going to back up almost immediately off it, but again, you're just trying to set that tone a little bit here now. And Tiger, ooh, you want to find these early picks, because that's going to slow Panama down a lot.
Yeah, 100%. But we see the back and forth right there, but GM dropping pretty much get your fight done and over with right there. Destiny is literally one around the corner, will go down, and without Destiny, a touch here is not promised by any means. In fact, this is going to be a really rough touch.
I mean, Flada could definitely go for it here on the Lucio. We do know they probably have the skills, or they do have the skills to go for a touch here, but this might be a moment here where you see the team kind of just corral them in for a brief moment. Everyone is back, though, so there's still definitely time for a touch here as GM looking like they're going to try to run straight to point, but it's actually going to be Destiny getting the touch here, but you look at everyone for Nicaragua already very low on health.
Yeah, and good plans come through, and that is going to be that right there. A point going to go through, and now you'll see a little bit of cleanup. More than likely, Flada tries to get out. Just too much charge coming through for Dak, who's going to help finish bodies off one after another. Q-Master wants to get out alive so desperately. Just isn't able to do so with the spawn swapping up a little bit, and now you got great position for Panama going into our second point.
Yeah, great position for them. And look at Panama. Grab, Sundering Blade, beat, Kitsune Rush ready to go. Yeah, those same ultimates are about to be ready here for Nicaragua as well, but Panama's going to have them here a little bit earlier, and they've always loved to throw the first punch, as Anox doing just that.
And Gio going to be pulled back in. Unfortunately, the healing is just not going to be enough, and Flada will be burnt down as well in time. Actually, just managed to get up momentarily, but Conqueron manages to clutch up here, just hoping to clean up the rest of his squad, cutting through bodies. Cleanses there in time. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough to save them from being taken down in time, as they'll be able to regroup quickly at the very least.
Very quickly, especially with spawns being a little bit in their favor there. But if you're Nicaragua, I don't think you're necessarily mad about that fight. Yeah, you didn't best beat, but you got 2 ultimates out from the other side and 2 really big ultimates. Now look at yourselves going into this fight. You're going to have Grab. You're going to have Kitsune Rush. You're going to have Overclock. You're going to have Tectonic Shocks. You're in a good spot here. Conqueron wants to swing that blade early, but Nadeby, the wall, saves them.
Yeah, Grab coming out of here for Geom when he needs to find something. Dak gets really low. In fact, he's being thrown with that double ult. Unfortunately, though, it's going to be the feed that's going to keep them alive here. And they'll be pushed back as that goes off the edge, so this keeps chances alive.
Geom, though, going over to the Wrecking Ball now, getting off the Zarya, who I think both me and you have been saying has been working very well for them tonight. Maybe the Wrecking Ball might just be that chaotic factor they're looking for here, as you're already starting to see Panama inch closer and closer to ending this friendly.
Yeah, and we are only 1 point away from this one being done and dusted, but you still have a good rush going into this next fight. You're going to be able to have Antnox to match it, but we did have the overtime tick over. Geom's probably going to get the benefit of one more. I don't know if there's another one after that fact, but you have Q-Master around the corner. You're trying for one more touch. It's just not going to be there in time.
Not going to be there in time. Now we'll head over to Temple for what could be our final point of the night here. And, I mean, just look at Panama. They're still just trying to clean up this fight.
Oh, God, yeah. This is a little rough right there, as they just have to do that. You need to take the reset. And now you head over to this third and this final point. And unfortunately for you, it's the one next door, so they are there immediately.
Yeah, and that's just going to be rough here for Panama, as they're just trying to find anything to get going here.
Yeah, rough situation. But, hey, it's not done and dusted yet. There's still fight back here from this squad. They're going to get one more touch at the last second, but still needs to be able to stay alive. Find some target, but a cleanse. The cleanses have been so perfectly timed all day from Antnox right here, but Tiger getting that first finish realistically should solidify this fight right here, as, yeah, Geom all they can do is just die on the point, which, by the way, has been capped for the first 25%.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this a little bit on the second map of the night here, where we haven't been talking about the support line for Panama enough. You talked about right there, Antnox, their cleanses have been perfect speed boost on this Lucio, no matter what support they're playing. It seems like they're playing it very, very well, very soundly here. And Nicaragua, they've just struggled into a lot of stuff tonight. I think you could really just start at the support line here for Panama. They've been able to do whatever they want, almost for free or speed boost, though. Just trying to get away, beat out from Flata, as they will find one, but oh, the value's already there.
Yeah, and the mines are on the point, so you get the flip, which, by the way, this is such an important flip to come away with here. But still, they're going to get back just as quickly. You have to stall out for quite some time if you are Geom, but you lose Flata so early. This is just going to be stalling out this point for as long as you can and praying that it's going to be enough, because you're going to get one more fight, and if Geom dies off this point, that could be the end of that.
I mean, Q-Master Navy is back. You're looking for Flata to get back here as well, but right now, already, you're seeing an overclock come out from Tiger, and the speed boost uses the beat here. Panama wants to end this now.
And that they are going to right there. Destiny is the only one left alive, and it's just hiding away. There's no chance of a touch, so this one will be settled. Panama will take it in 4-1 fashion, but Nicaragua putting up a lot of good fight here today. Just unfortunately, Panama just had this last map so figured out.
So figured out. I think they made right bans as well. I mean, there were back and forth maps this series. I think really, though, Nicaragua, they really looked the best on Lijiang Tower and on King's Row. Outside of that, they struggled at points. You can go to Dorado, we talked about, barely got that first point, somehow got that first point, and then when they got stonewalled right after it. And Panama played it very, very soundly throughout the night. Everyone we saw from them, whether it be Jazer, Dag, Conqueror, Takeda for them, it seems like they have a really good lineup here. And again, let's actually give the praise now to this support line of Speed Boost and Antnox. They really seem to be essentially the rock of this team. They're there. They will always be there for you, and they're going to help you out no matter what. And that's exactly what you want your support line to do here. Again, we only really talk about the support lines if they're necessarily not doing the best or they're doing above and beyond. And hey, we didn't talk about them a lot throughout the series, but I believe they went above and beyond in this series for Team Panama. A lot of good showing here from Panama. Like I said, a lot throughout the night. We did not know, or at least I did not know what to expect from them. Man, do they leave me mightily impressed after this one here. Nicaragua, briefly touched on it. They had their moments back and forth on Lijiang, looked really good on King's Row. They had the first 6 minutes there on Coliseo where they looked like almost unstoppable, that we were at least going to see 6 maps tonight. But Panama was able just to shut them down there, and Nicaragua, once they lose that momentum, they kind of lose a lot of their playstyle as well. This is a very momentum-heavy team here for Nicaragua, so they need to get started fast and then just keep on going here. But hey, a good first showing for them here tonight. A good first showing for both these two teams, especially in the coming weeks. We do know that Panama is playing another friendly next week against Costa Rica, which, hey, Hunter, me and you have seen that team twice. We know how good that team is. I think that'll be a very good matchup here for Panama to figure out where they really lie right now with a lot of this stuff. It should be a fun one next weekend. But for right now, good games by both these two teams here. I think there's a lot you can build upon here.
Yeah, I really think there is. I think it's really easy for Nicaragua to decide what they were good at and what they were kind of struggling to deal with. And I think, obviously, plenty of time for this team to be able to grow for a wild card situation, and Panama at the same situation. Because even though they go in here, they win the 4-1, we go back on some of these maps where they do kind of struggle a little bit to pull these things out. You look back at something like the King's Row, even kind of like the Lijiang Tower as well, where it doesn't go entirely in their favor as they would like. But that's what all this time is going to be nice for, to do these matches, to be able to train with each other. And obviously, when we have rosters a little more solidified here in at least a couple of weeks, it's going to be a lot easier for not only the players to be able to figure things out, but the coaches, the committee as well, to make that happen. But honestly, we love being here. We love seeing this. We're happy that we get even the opportunity to watch these amazing players, teams, countries play. And obviously, hopefully, there's a lot more to come. Like we said, there's that one next week with Costa Rica and Panama. That should be a good one. I'm really excited for it, but hopefully there's even more we get to see, because we haven't even gotten to see teams like Peru yet, which I know we're both very excited about some of those members and coach over in Peru. But no, Dex, I'm just happy that we can do this and that we can honestly just watch these amazing players go at it. Some we're very familiar with, and others we're seeing for the very first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think we have to give a lot of thanks to Grupo Senju and William Mundy for letting us in on this here a little bit. Make sure you go follow them, because they will always put out more stuff about this. They'll also put out broadcasts in specific languages and promote broadcasts for Spanish-speaking languages, Portuguese-speaking languages, and just other languages. If there is a need for them there, they will always be able to find someone who does maybe provide a broadcast that speaks in a language that you're more familiar with here tonight. But hey, there's gonna be a lot more of this coming up here, and hopefully here soon. I would hope sometime around boot camp or after boot camp, we get more news on when everything with the Overwatch World Cup is gonna really get going here, because once that ball starts rolling, we're gonna start to see probably a little bit more of these friendly matches start to pick up.
Yep, and I'll be very excited for that. But obviously, a little further into the future, that is for tonight. We want to thank y'all for coming out here, for enjoying this, for giving your support in the chat for all these amazing players, these amazing teams, both of them. So, everyone, have yourselves a fantastic night. We'll be back later this week with some more Face It League, as it's the last week for North America before the playoffs. But hopefully, next weekend, we'll have some more World Cup show matches. And until then, have yourselves a great evening.